Hi everyone, hope all is well. Just coming on here to share with you all what our new vision and mission and our game plan is finishing out 2020 here. As you all know, this pandemic hit us out of nowhere, and for me personally, it has really taken me for an emotional roller coaster ride. Reason being because I didn't expect this to happen, and I didn't expect our business to have been so vulnerable, right? And it made me really think over the last 60 days or so here about where we need to go as a company, as an individual, and as a team, and what our future looks like at HomeFirst Mortgage Bankers. Okay, so let me start off with our vision. Okay, our vision is to see every American that we get to know to believe again in the American dream of life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. Okay, and our mission is going to be threefold. Number one, our mission is going to be to heal every American that we get to know from all the broken promises, right? Whether you've been corrupted, cheated, lied to, whether you were tricked into getting a loan that you didn't want to get, or whether you really believe that this was the right loan for you and you ended up losing your home. Whether you're an originator and you thought that you're going to be able to provide the best service or provide the best rates and you weren't able to deliver. Whatever held you back from achieving your dreams, our mission is going to be just that. We're going to first start with ourselves, and we're going to go through this healing process, because what I realized was I have a responsibility as the owner of HomeFirst Mortgage Bankers to make sure that the people that we help are really going to be helped. And just because someone else is doing it, just because 99% of the other lenders are doing what they're doing, doesn't make it right necessarily. Okay, we have an obligation to make sure that we bring what the consumer and what the industry needs. Okay, so number one, to heal every American that we get to know from the broken promises of believing in the core values of the American dream. Again, life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. Okay, that's step one. Second mission, okay, once we go through this healing process, now we're ready, because we believe that, you know what, it is worth fighting for our dreams and living for our dreams, whether it's for our own families or whether it's for ourselves and our future family. In order to do that, we need to really learn again. Okay, learn what is going to work in the new future, and what used to work in the old future may not necessarily apply. So we need to, number two, educate every American that we get to know to devise a plan to own real estate, to own property. And we're going to have to learn ourselves what that looks like, because not every job is stable right now moving forward. Not every industry may be the same moving forward. Not all the guidelines may be the same moving forward. So we really have to roll up our sleeves and get into the mindset of learning again. Okay? And by doing so, we're going to be able to educate our consumers and our business partners to really come up with a solid plan. Okay? And step three, mission part three. We really need to be able to figure out how to protect not only our company, not only our business, but our consumers that are buying these homes, how to protect them from losing the home to the industry, any kind of market crash, really protecting them from losing it, really even from the banks like us or the government, right? So really coming up with a comprehensive plan to make sure that, number one, are our consumers, are our people really able to dream big again? Right, something that we haven't dreamt before in the past, or maybe we have, and maybe along the way, we were thrown off because we got screwed over, or we were cheated to. And then again, we need to learn what's going to work in this new industry. Okay, and then again, how are we going to protect what we actually work so hard for? By really thinking of all the possible things that could happen moving forward here. Okay, so here's our plan in order to achieve this mission. We're looking for leaders, Okay, we're looking for leaders in this new industry. Okay, and we're looking for leaders that, what is a leader to me? A leader to me, number one, is a good follower, right? A follower that knows who to follow. Okay, but a leader by definition is to lead, is to be in the front, to do something that no one else has done yet. That's what a leader is. It's going first, right? To lead means to go first. So we have an opportunity right now to be leaders of this new industry because of what happened with COVID. And as new leaders of this industry, we need to share our stories, and we need to really share this process of healing ourselves, learning and educating ourselves, and really being able to protect ourselves. So if we're good, we can help others. And this is how I look at it. The story, the plan is social media storytelling. Okay, and here's why I call that the plan. Okay, my whole life, if I were to look at my 38 years, I would say I just turned 38 2 weeks ago. Okay, I would look at the first half of my story, the first half of my life, as the first half of my story. In every story, there's two parts. Really, there's four. Let me go over the four parts of the story. Number one is the setting. Okay, the setting is very important for any storyline because the setting allows your audience to join in and be a part of your story. Just remember this, no one cares about your story, okay? But your story is important if it allows that audience to be able to relive that story with you, and if they're able to gain something from it. So that's what the setting is for. If you think about Lion King, if you think about Finding Nemo, Bambi, there's different settings so that the audience can come into your story and be a part of it and relate to it. Okay, so remember that. The second part of the story is very, very important. This is how we relate with your audience. The second part of the story is the solution, is where the conflict gets introduced, is where the problem gets introduced. That's what most people can relate to. Okay. Most of us have problems and most of us have conflicts in our lives. Most of us have issues in our lives, and that's why a story is so powerful, because it resonates. Usually the conflict that the one of the most common underlying conflicts in most Disney movies is the conflict of separation from parents. So you can imagine, someone watching my 4-year-old Rocky watching, Lion King. He's going to put himself in the jungle, this massive world, right? And you have bad beasts, and you have the father, and you have Simba. Well, Rocky is going to relate with Simba, and the underlying theme there is separation from parent. Imagine how Rocky would feel if he lost me. Well, that's how he relates with Simba, right, in that story. Now, a story wouldn't be a story if it didn't have the solution, which is the third part. This is also very important because this is what's going to allow us to build credibility in the story. So if Simba only lost his father and then went off with his friends and didn't go through that struggle, and then with that struggle didn't do anything with it, there is no point of that story. So the mere fact that he was able to come back and become king of the jungle by going through his hardship and really training and building his character up, right? That's the credibility part. And I think it's very important to note here that in every storyline, there's a balance between credibility and relatability. Relatability being on one side and credibility being on the other side. If relatability is too high, credibility will go low. If credibility is too high, relatability will go low. For instance, Michael Jordan, very high credibility, very low relatability. What do I mean by that? I can't make a phone call and expect Michael Jordan to pick up my call and say, "Hey, Mike, good shot last night, good dunk on that last night. Man, how'd you do that? How were you able to practice for that?" Right? So very high credibility, but very low relatability. On the flip side, if you think of all your funny friends, your very funny friends who are always clowning around with you, and they always have problems to share. They got into this problem and that problem, and they just share all these things that we can all relate to, but they never find a solution for themselves in their lives. So what does that mean? They have very low credibility. They have very high relatability. They can connect with so many people, but you'll never buy anything from them because there is no credibility. So finding that balance is an art. The science is the story, okay? And then the fourth part of that storyline is the lesson. right? The boy who cried wolf. What is the lesson in that story? It's tell the truth all the time, because if you tell a few lies up front and you tell the truth later on, guess what's going to happen? No one's going to believe you, right? So the lesson is is the takeaway from the storyline. So now going back to the storyline, if my first half of the storyline, sure, there's a great setting. The setting was I was born to parents. My mom was born on a farm. My dad, he was an orphan, and they both somehow made their way to the States as an immigrant. And my entire life growing up, was very dark from the very beginning. I mean, if you ever heard my story, my favorite character, the first half of my life, and still is Rocky Balboa. I used to watch so many Rocky movies, always connecting with Rocky, the underdog, because the underdog, had the smaller size, and he had less strength, and he had less equipment versus, the opponent had all these machines, and they had all this size on them. But for me, it really resonated with me because growing up, I always felt like I was the underdog. I don't know why life was so unfair for me, why my mom had to always get physically abused by my father, and why my father always told me that I wasn't good enough, and he would always physically abuse me and do those things, right? I always didn't understand why, right? So growing up, I always had this affinity deep down in my heart to be able to help other underdogs believe in themselves and really have inspiration to, yes, the odds are stacked against us, but it doesn't have to always be like that. Okay. Now, at 37 years old, I would have to say that my storyline was the first half, the setting and the conflict. I have so many conflicts, and I have so many problems, and I have so many things that I can allow other people to relate to me with. But at what point am I going to start writing the second half of my story? Right. So let's talk about the second half of the story, my second half of the story, and hopefully your second half of the story. So first, I once learned that the greatest stories that are ever told are not the stories that are told, but the stories that allow the audience to relive that story with you. So I thought about that. I thought about that concept. And if I were to give you an example of some of the greatest stories that we hear of that'll apply in this scenario, think of the TV show The Biggest Loser. Right? The Biggest Loser, you have this storyline of someone who, contestants, actually live. Some of the lives are really the trend these days, because no one wants to see old stuff. Everyone wants to see up to date now stuff. So that's why lives are so powerful these days. But if you take a story like The Biggest Loser, what do you always have? You always have the whole script written out. You have the before and the after, right? Think about that, and then now think about someone who is a character in The Biggest Loser, but think about that person that never actually made it to the finish line before releasing that story. What if I told you the greatest story that's happening now is going to be a story that we actually play out today in real life? Because you know why? No one knows what's going to happen in the future here. No one. The old America, the old past is gone, right? That we do know. So what does the future look like? Well, the greatest story happening now could be our second half of our lives, our second half of the story, where we actually play out our mission. And every day, every week, we get one step closer to our vision. And we share in that. We share in our daily settings, our daily conflicts, our daily solutions that we commit to finding, and then our daily lessons, and we commit to that. And I challenge you, if you feel that our country needs healing, needs new education, and needs protection from all the corruption out there, from all the opinions and all these different thoughts out there, if you feel that you need to bring some change, some positive change, and bring people together, and bring some peace and order into this country, to this organization, I ask you to really think about, is that something you want to do? And if you feel like that's something you want to do, I challenge you to reach out to me and join forces with me, because I have a team of experts, real estate experts, mortgage experts, legal experts, financial services and products experts that have come together to really stay on this mission for a reason. The reason is because we all believe in the American dream of life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. And we will fight at all costs and prepare at all costs to make sure that we make this happen and that we can protect our liberties and our freedoms. So I ask you to ask yourself that question. Do I want to be a part of making some real positive change for this country and our industry? And if so, I look forward to hearing from you. Take care.